Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
And I'm your host this afternoon, welcoming you to the Silver Lining Storycast. This is the new podcast that I'm producing this fall and launching for the reason that I found when I was producing the first edition of my print book, the Silver Lining Storybook, that there were just so many stories that people wanted to share. And especially I know that there's a lot of amazing people who really haven't had the opportunity to explore the value in their silver lining stories. And I wanted to create more opportunities to share the platform and to give that really that opportunity for the amazing people that I know. This is an interview today. I have a really fantastic guest with us, and our interview today is specifically for an upcoming edition of the Silver Lining Storybook that will be published and distributed specifically for professionals in Toronto. And what we're looking to do really is explore and promote some of the worst and the best experiences that we've had through building our businesses and our careers in the city, and recognizing the truth in the saying that every storm cloud has a silver lining. My guest today is Karen Wang. Karen has created an online marketplace for physical storage called Space I Share. The platform connects people who need space with people who have space. Karen's vision is to create a vibrant community where people can share in-home space in an easy and safe way to give people the opportunity to save and make money. Hi, Karen. I'm so glad you're here with us today.
Hi, Debbie. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. I'm so glad that you're here today to share with us your silver lining story about your experience and some of your many experiences that have brought you to where you are. If you could please, though, because the audience really doesn't know necessarily who you are, they might not have met you before or been introduced to you before, can you tell us about Space I Share and about the clients that you serve through your business?
Absolutely. So, like Debbie said, my name is Karen Wang, and I'm one of the co-founders and the COO of Space I Share. And I actually started the company with two other women. So I'll get into the story a little bit more later, but essentially I worked with these two other women at a previous organization, and then we had an opportunity to start something on our own. So we're super excited, not only to be launching, a Canadian startup, a technology startup, but I'm personally really excited to be able to kind of bring women to the forefront as well, especially in the tech space. So what is Space I Share? So it essentially is a marketplace for storage. So, some people still kind of look at me funny when I say that. So I like to say it's the Airbnb of storage. So Airbnb, I'm sure most people know, it's essentially the opportunity for people to share their home for guests who are traveling. So we really wanted to go beyond that and give people the opportunity who might not want to share their homes with people, but still want to be able to share their home. And so now they're able to share their home with boxes. So essentially people are going to open up their homes and have the opportunity to make money off of some extra space that they have in their home. And on the flip side, people who are looking for storage options have the option to have storage in their area, and also for much less than they would typically pay at a traditional self-storage facility. So we joke a lot at the company because people will often say, okay, well, what is the problem that you're trying to solve? The problem that we're trying to solve is the fact that people have stuff. They have lots and lots of stuff, and they need a place to put it all. And we also, laugh a lot because, the topic of storage is not sexy or fun. But when we think about why people have so much stuff in the first place, we think a lot about the fact that every box tells a story. So every furniture item that people are hanging on to, or every box that people are hanging on to, it's being held on to because of a past or future expectation. And the reality is that people are willing to pay big cash to keep these things in their possession. So at the end of the day, we decided to create a sharing economy platform, which would allow, again, people who are, desperately in need of storage options within the community and at an affordable price to be able to access that. And then on the flip side, again, to be able to give homeowners the opportunity to make some money off a space that they already have. So it's probably space that, frankly, they're using to store their own junk. But if they look in a corner now, they're like, holy cow, maybe that 50 square feet or 100 square feet that I wasn't really utilizing in a good way, now I can make, $50, $100 or $200 a month off of that. So that's kind of why we launched the company in the first place. And, when you ask who our customers are, it's pretty much anyone who has stuff, which is pretty much everyone. So customers on one side are the renters, so anyone that needs a storage option. And on the other side, customers, again, because it's a marketplace, anyone that essentially owns a home or owns space that they can monetize.
That's great. And you're in Toronto, in Canada at the moment, and available in this city. Are there other cities that you already have or that you're planning to go to?
Yeah, it's a good question. We decided to launch in Toronto first only because our network is the strongest here. And obviously there's a lot of support in Toronto for tech companies. But our goal really is to be Canada-wide, probably with a bigger focus on the major cities like Vancouver and Montreal, Calgary. I should mention that we actually just launched our site in French because we do really want to, market to the French population in Canada as well. And obviously in Quebec, they're more, a lot of people are more comfortable when there's a French language site. We also thought that, when you look to Europe, people in general are a lot more comfortable with the idea of sharing their homes and the sharing economy. And I feel like the Quebec are actually very much like that as well. Yeah. So we wanted to make sure to kind of have an option for them. So we're really, really excited to have launched our French site. And actually one of my co-founders is French Canadian.
I spent my teenage years near Montreal in the social. Can attest they are much more European, tend much more to open up their homes, I think just more maybe less big cities like Toronto is.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's interesting. Even before we launched our site, we just kind of sent out some email to people in our network just to let them know we were about to launch. And one of our contacts actually sent our email to someone at a French radio station, and they decided to do like a 5-minute spot on right here. And again, I think it's just because they're so keen to share. They're so keen to open up their homes. They're just a lot more comfortable with it. So they were excited to be able to talk about this type of opportunity that would be launching there. And further to that, our goal is to absolutely move into the U.S. as well. And our plan was not to do any marketing or go full force into the U.S. this year. Our plan is to do that next year. But if you go on our site, it's interesting because people from the U.S. have already found us. So we have probably 5 or 6 listings already from the U.S., a few from Florida, one from Texas. Yeah, we don't even know how we found out about it.
You don't actually have to physically launch in a region in order for people to spontaneously or organically be able to post their listings.
No, that's the beauty of online.
And it's a testament to the setup of your site and of your business. So that's fantastic. Was there more that you wanted to tell us about the business before we get into your silver lining story?
I think the last thing I wanted to say is, again, our vision is really to be able to help people and to be able to help people from the standpoint of more financial freedom. So when we think about, giving people an opportunity to save money or make money, we think about, how having a few extra $100 every month could help people, pay down their mortgage faster, or save money for their children's education, or go on a much needed vacation that maybe they couldn't afford before. And again, this is with very little effort, right? All they need to do is find one little corner of their house and just be willing to share it. So, that's kind of our goal, is to be able to give people, the opportunity to do things that maybe were harder for them before.
Mm-hmm. I think that's great. It seems very altruistic to me, and significantly helpful, I think, to a lot of people. A couple $100 a month is not insignificant at all.
Right.
And you mentioned as well that there's savings. I never actually used a storage space, like a public storage space, but there's savings for people who might consider changing where they're storing their stuff?
Oh, absolutely. And I'll definitely tell you one story later on, which is actually kind of one of the reasons we started the company in the first place. But just to give you some context, a typical 100 square foot storage unit facility in Toronto, as an example, would cost probably anywhere between $150 to $200 a month.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So, and 100 square feet doesn't fit that much.
Not bad. They're like 8 or 9 feet tall, but 10 feet by 10 feet is not a lot.
Yeah. So it's challenging, right? Because people are, have a lot of stuff to hang on to, and if their only option right now is self-storage facilities, it is for sure it's going to cost them like at least a few $1,000s a year. And typically, people have things in storage for many, many years. So, at the end of the day, they'll be like, they have like a $10,000 bill just for storing their stuff. Wow. Sentimental value. Yeah.
I've got a lot more questions that I could ask you about the business, but I do want to get into your silver lining story.
Silver lining, for sure.
So the reason why we're here, I'm so excited to hear, what you've been through, but really the benefits that we can find through the experiences that you've had. So why don't you share with us what the story that you want to tell?
Sure. So my silver lining story actually is about transition in my life. So it was the phase where I transitioned from being the VP of sales at a prominent digital media company in Toronto that very suddenly got shut down, to essentially making the decision to become an entrepreneur and deciding to build Bay Fresh Air. So, I'll definitely get into some more details of what actually happened. But, that day that I was told that our company was shutting down and I had to tell, 100 other people that they were losing their jobs.
Wow.
I mean, it was horrible. It was probably the worst, or one of the worst experiences of my life, because, this is people's lives at stake, including mine, right? Mm-hmm. And when something like that happens, it's usually, without any warning. So, I'm happy to share this experience because I certainly have come out on the other side and been able to make something great out of something terrible that happened.
Mm-hmm. So why don't you go back to the beginning and tell us about it?
Yeah, I thought I would actually start off by just giving you a little bit of background on myself, and because I think it's important. It's important to share it with you because it kind of will help you understand what has shaped me as a person.
Yeah.
So first off, my father, who's actually now passed away, was the most hardworking person I knew. And so he was a pharmacist by trade, but he was also a very hardworking entrepreneur. So over the span of his career, he owned 4 different pharmacies, 2 variety stores, and an importing business. So as a child, I grew up watching my father, bust his butt off. So working hard has always been something that I believe that people just do. Mm-hmm. There's no option. You just do it. Secondly, my parents believed that it was important for me to have really strong work ethic and to really instill that from a young age. So I started working in one of my dad's pharmacies at the age of 10.
Mm-hmm.
pretty sure that's not legal. Yeah. But I worked as a cashier. I stocked shelves. I even worked behind the cosmetic counter giving women makeup advice. So it's so strange that women would trust a kid to give them beauty advice, but I don't know, it just seemed normal at the time. That was what I was told to do, so I did it.
And it worked, obviously.
And it worked, yeah, and I do love makeup. And then lastly, I went to school for journalism. So I spent 4 years prepping myself to be a journalist. And then when I was about to graduate, I decided it was actually not something that I wanted to do. So my motivation for getting a job was purely just so I did not have to move home with my parents. So I ended up in sales at a digital media company. And looking back, honestly, I was not qualified for that job. And I say this to people all the time, is that in life, you work very hard for things and, you work hard to build up skills and be educated. But I do believe in life, there's also a little bit of luck.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so, I think back to the gentleman that interviewed me, and I got lucky. Like I still talk to him, and he says, you know what, I just saw something in you. Like I knew you had potential, and I just wanted to give you a chance. And I'm so thankful, even to this day, that man decided to give me a chance. And so this is not my silver lining story, but it's just words of encouragement for people that, just because you're not qualified for something, or just because you think you can't get that job, don't let it stop you. Like, just apply and just put yourself out there, because you never know when you're going to get lucky and you're going to find that person that sees something in you and it's just going to give you a chance. So,
was it just on chance that you applied for this job, or was it someone that you knew, like through the hidden job market? Like, did you have an inner track?
No inner track. It was, I'm dating myself now, but it was back when people used to look for jobs in the newspaper. And the pop-up used to find ads, right? So funnily enough, it was my mom who actually found the little ad in the newspaper, and she cut it out and she gave it to me. And she
for a digital media company? No. Sorry, was it a digital media company?
It was.
How is there a digital media company advertising in the newspaper? It must have been in the Toronto Star.
It was in the Toronto Star. And you know what? This company was owned by the Toronto Star. So got it. Yeah, got it. That makes sense. Yes, I was working for ad agencies beginning in 1996 as a media buyer. Yeah. And they didn't have email at the first agency that I worked at. Oh, my goodness.
They got email about 6 months later. I did my first year of job hunting. How did I what?
How did you guys communicate without email?
Fax and telephone.
Wow.
And all of our contracts were typed in three different color contracts, media contracts.
Crazy. Crazy.
I can't even imagine. I can figure it must have been around 1999.
Right.
Or so that you were doing that.
You're right. You're bang on. 1999 was when I got my first career in digital advertising. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
So that kind of was my stepping stone into the career that I've had for most of my life before I became an entrepreneur. So for 16 years, I spent my career in digital media. And for the first 10 years, I was focused on selling. So I essentially, you would have been my client probably. Mm-hmm. So I was selling digital media solutions to agency and advertisers. Yeah. And then for the last 6 years, I focused more on the management strategy side, and essentially helping to run a digital media company. So, my focus has really been on just becoming an expert in the digital media space, building a wide and strong network, because I'm sure even you can attest to this. Like, it's very important to have a good network within that industry. And for me, it was important just to become like a leader in that industry. So I did lots of things. I did lots of volunteering. I ran I'd call it Internet Day for a couple of years, and I got really involved in that industry because I was convinced that was what I was going to do for the rest of my life. So You know, when I say the rest of my life, I mean, it's interesting because I actually had many people say to me, like, do you think you'll ever do anything aside from digital media? And I would have said no. Like, I mean, it was the
I said the exact same thing.
Yeah,
I was in love with my job.
Oh, yeah.
I loved my career. I loved everything about it. It was a perfect fit for me as a human being.
Yeah.
I was lucky to have discovered it and to have had it. Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely some glamorous parts.
Of course.
Being in the
glamorous parts.
Yeah, there's some glamorous parts. And it was really fun. It was challenging at the same time. And again, because on the digital side, I mean, it was just changing. So every year, you know, it was changing. It's not like some of the more traditional, you know, mediums where it's just kind of the same.
Or even just the more traditional jobs, like being a journalist. You were trained and educated to be a journalist, which is one of the most traditional jobs ever. And then to get into this industry that almost nobody understands, nobody even knows exists, nobody knows how it works, and to be a leader, to see this industry taking over the world and every corner and impacting almost every human being, like, that's kind of addictive.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I think I got to the point where, you know, I felt like it would be really stupid to turn my back on this industry because there aren't very many people who started in 1999 or earlier, right? So for me to be able to, you know, stay in the industry and get good jobs, whether it was at, you know, the company I was at or another one, you know, I just had created a niche for myself. Like, there was a lot of skill sets that I had that, you know, other people could learn, but it would take some time to learn, right?
It's hard to break out of the niche. It's like a really, really, really deep rut.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was the VP of sales at this company, which I won't name, but it was one of the most well-respected and loved digital media companies in Canada. And like I said, I spent a lot of years in it, so I had a good reputation in the industry. And, you know, like we just said, it's an industry that people looked at and were like, man, I would love that job. So, yeah, I thought I was in it for the long haul. But, you know, life can throw you some, can be unpredictable and throw you some curveballs. And, you know, I'm a big believer in the universe challenging you at interesting times.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is where I guess my silver lining story begins. So the turning point in my life, really the big curveball from the universe, happened about a year ago. So I was working at this digital media company, and you know, I have to say, it wasn't just a company. It was like family to me. So everyone that I worked with, we worked so well together. We truly, truly enjoyed working with each other. And it was a company that I had been at from the beginning. So, you know, I kind of poured my heart and soul into this company. So I spent 10 years there, and the company was essentially owned by two larger entities. So it was like a joint venture between two other organizations. And they, for whatever reason, very suddenly decided to shut us down. So it was a shock. Like, I honestly can say there aren't many things that truly shocked me in life, but it was a shock to me. It was a shock to the other executives, a shock to the employees, a shock to actually the entire industry. Like, I remember making the phone call to tell people that our company was shutting down. They're like, no, like, this can't be happening. This is awful. Because they really enjoyed working with the company that I was at. So yeah, after a few days of being in shock, I was still very shocked, and I was very sad. And to be honest, I had no idea what I was going to do with myself. But at the same time, like I mentioned earlier, there was about 100 people in our organization, and I knew that I needed to step up. Like, it wasn't just about me.
Right.
I needed to figure out a way to help other people through the process. And also, you know, my goal was actually to help people find their next job, because I had a lot of connections. I was like, I can do this. Like, I can literally find each and every single one of my reps a job, and my 2 sales managers as well. I can totally find them a job. So I remember a few days after the announcement was made, I was with my new sales managers, and we were just feeling a little bit down, to be honest.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Can you figure out why?
So we decided to take a walk. We took a walk, and we sat ourselves on a random picnic bench in a park near our office, and we said, let's just have a meeting here. We don't want to be in the office. And we had a long conversation about how we were going to support our team and how we were going to help them find jobs. And after literally chatting for hours about it, one of my sales managers turned to me and said, okay, how about you though? What are you going to do? What are you thinking? And I had not thought about it at all. And it was interesting because without any thought, I told her how I've always wanted to own my own company, my own business, to be able to build something, from the bottom up. And I also told her how I wanted to do something that would allow me to make more of an impact, whether it's on, my community or the world, because, as much as advertising was fun and glamorous, I did have moments of what am I doing? I'm not contributing to the world, I'm sure you get that a little bit too, right?
I had one day, just to share with you my aha moment around that. I remember sitting at my desk as a media buyer and recognizing that what I contributed to the world was essentially akin to being a glorified money launderer. I take a big, giant pile of money, millions upon millions of dollars every single year, imaginary money from one side of my desk, and I chop it up and I distribute it to other people who really need it, and we take our cut.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically money laundering. And I was like, oh, where's the value? What am I really contributing? So totally get it.
Yeah. So, it's hard to feel like that, right? And it's also hard to know, okay, well, now what am I going to do? Am I going to go work for a nonprofit and, make $20,000 a year? I got to eat, right?
Well, and plus you're driven to build and to grow. And as a VP of sales, you have a particular characteristic for success and for leadership.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, for sure. So, I kind of told them that. And the other thing I said is I would love to be able to, on a daily basis, be able to help people more. Right? And I didn't know what that meant, but I kind of routed off this idea that I had kind of rolling around in my head. And it was this app that I wanted to build to help families with aging parents because, our population is aging and people are going to need so much help. And it went on and on and on about this thing. And at the end of the day, I was just telling her things that I would love to do, but I knew in my head that it probably would never happen because I just didn't have the guts to do it. And, she turned to me and I remember she just gave me this smile and she said, that's really interesting. Okay, I want to tell you what I'm working on. I'm like, what are you working on? You just found out 2 days ago that we're being laid off, So she proceeded to tell me this story or this idea that she had in her head, which was about people sharing their in-home space. And so the background of it, and this story is kind of her aha moment, is she told me about her aunt who was moving out west for, I think, 2 years. So she basically said, okay, I'm going to put all my stuff into storage because I know I'm moving back to Toronto. I'm only moving there for a job. So it's not like I'm just going to get rid of all my stuff. Yeah. So in order for her to do that, she had to put her stuff in self-storage facility. And it was costing her $500 a month.
Okay.
So do the math. In 2 years, that's $12,000 that she was basically paying to store her stuff that, frankly, was probably only worth $3,000. Yeah, painful, right? So then my now business partner thought to herself, wow, I would have let you put this thing in my basement for $6,000. Oh my gosh, I could totally use that money. Or, frankly, your family, and I would have let you put it there for free. And again, so that's when she had her aha moment, and she's thinking, there's probably a lot of people who have extra space in their home who would be willing to store other people's stuff if those people were willing to pay like $100 or $200 or $300 a month. So she had been kind of, marinating this idea for quite a while. And now that this happened, she's like, well, maybe this is just something that I'm going to do. But she hadn't even fully decided yet. But when she told me about it, I was like, this is a really good idea. And I remember thinking, this is an idea that could really take off. And I personally am a big believer in the sharing economy. And I love using apps and technology to make their life easier. So I remember thinking, great idea. And I really wish that there was some way I could be a part of this. And that's when she came on asking, and she just said, like, would you want to do this with us? And it's the strangest thing because I didn't even think about it. I just said yes. And that's pretty crazy because, I obviously didn't spend any time with her, like, validating the idea or, I had no idea how much she had worked on the project. I just knew it was an idea that I could get behind. Mm-hmm. And then, I say us. She said, do you want to work on this with us? The reason I say us is because there was actually another sales manager at the table. And they had been talking about it, and because they would carpool and to work together, and one girl would tell the other girl her dream of launching this company, and so the other person had actually decided a few weeks prior to get on board with his project. And at that time, neither of them realized that the company that we all worked at was going to be shut down. Mm-hmm. And so they were just going to do this on the side. Mm-hmm. We all know, like, now that we're all working on this full time, and we're like, there's no way that this project can be done on the side.
No, there's no way that any really successful business can be done on a part-time basis. It's just impossible to get it past part-time or to make it successful on a part-time basis.
Right. You like want to hope that you can do it part-time, but no, it's just not real.
No, but you can get a lot of the startup done. Like you can get so much accomplished part-time while you're still working, while you still have the security of a paycheck. Right. But you're like me. I transitioned into self-employment because I was laid off.
Okay.
So I had a similar experience. Now, it certainly didn't come to me in an instant. I spent years job hunting and growing my business while I was working contracts, while I was taking jobs, and spending time sort of a few months self-employed, a few months working for someone. And it became really apparent after a little while that there just isn't enough hours in the day or enough energy in my body or enough people who want to support a part-time entrepreneur to make a business go forward. And if you want to have people investing their time and their energy in your business, in your idea, you have to commit everything.
Yeah, that is so true.
You can't, but I want to keep my job.
Yeah, that's so true. It's interesting that you say that because we're talking to a lot of mentors, potential investors, and a whole bunch of other people to kind of move our business forward. And that's one of the first questions that people ask is, are you doing this full time? Or are you doing this on the side? Because they need to know that you're committed.
Exactly.
And you really believe in your idea. So that's a really good point. I look back and, the fact that I said yes on the spot is, to me, it just happened. Like I think it's inspired. Yeah, I was inspired, exactly. And, even the girl who asked me if I wanted to join them in this venture, she's like, are you sure? Like, are you sure you don't want to sleep on this first? Because this is a very big decision. And, to put it into context, when it's not just about, okay, well, I'm going to try something different. Like for me, this was a decision to exit an industry that I had spent my entire career in, and to take a chance on something different. So, that's huge, right? And then obviously the other thing is, I'm making the decision to not get another well-paying, like executive level job to become an entrepreneur with no paycheck for probably at least a year or two. So for me, it's a very big sacrifice from I would say a lifestyle point of view. I mean, I like my clothes, my makeup. I like
it's a huge change.
Yeah, huge change. But I have to say that it's amazing how easy it is to transition and make changes in your lifestyle when you have something else that you're passionate about. So
right.
I'm okay not to buy a few extra cups, My boyfriend's certainly happy about that because I don't need any more stuff. But yeah, I think that the decision to, jump into this adventure, the other thing that if I had spent too much time thinking about it, I probably would have done it. And, there's a lot of knowledge gaps, admittingly, that I had going into this. And I knew I would have to spend a lot of time, learning and pushing myself out of my comfort zone. But if I spent time thinking about it, then it just would have been too daunting. So I think it just had to be something that just jumped right into.
Absolutely.
And so this is a really important piece. So I think that, when I talk to entrepreneurs, I always like to ask, what's great about being an entrepreneur? What are you struggling with? I think the hardest thing for entrepreneurs is not letting obstacles slow you down, and not letting doubt get in the way of your motivation to succeed. And so I was very fortunate within the last year to have met some amazing people that have helped me to understand the importance of mindset in my mission to build a successful business. So as focused as I am on the business and working on the business, I put the same amount of focus on mindset training. So just a few examples of things that I do. It's like, that little voice that you hear in your head all the time that's like telling you to do things or telling you not to do things and it's making you doubt things. Like I have actually trained myself to quiet that voice down. Like I'm not saying that it doesn't exist at all, but yeah, it's much quieter. And I feel like I don't let that voice in my head get in the way of things that I want to do. The other thing is really about using your mindset to create opportunities for yourself. And at the end of the day, it's so simple, like how entrepreneurs can succeed. And that's really just through action. Like whatever that action is.
Yeah.
Right? But
action is always positive. You learn something not to do or you learn something to do through action.
For sure. And that's the thing. It's like, even if you mess up, right, that action was able to create something, positive in your business. And the other thing that I learned from someone else that I really, really want to pass on to other people is the importance of having a morning routine. So there's a book that was recommended to me, and it's by Hal Elrod, and I think it's called The Morning Miracles. Yeah. And really it's about like what you should do in the morning to set yourself up for a great day. And because every day is so important, right? Every day that I'm not making money or like driving revenue and making things happen on Space I Share is another day that, I'm not getting a paycheck. So a few things are, meditation, and it doesn't have to be like, an hour of meditation, even if it's like a couple minutes of meditation. I do that every morning. Personal affirmation. So, it's this concept of telling yourself that, you're whatever it is, right? You're strong, you're happy, you're awesome, you're powerful, whatever it is. And, you keep saying these things to yourself and they do seep into your subconscious to the point where you start believing that you're awesome and beautiful or whatever, right? Yep. Another really powerful one is really just writing down the things that I'm grateful for and the things that I want to accomplish every single day. And because for entrepreneurs, there literally is a list of 1,000 things that you could do in a day. But to just give yourself a little bit of focus to say, these are the things that I want to accomplish, because it's going to generate X, And the last one, which I love, and I'm actually staring at right now, is I have a vision board. And I have a personal vision board and I have a work vision board. And it's just a whole bunch of images and words of things that I'm striving towards for personal happiness and success in my business. So I really feel like These are things that have helped me to not get in a funk or not get discouraged, and to help me keep going despite obstacles that which I've had many along the way since we've launched the business.
Right. Yeah. And I really thank you so much for sharing all of that. I really, something that you said about the morning miracle was that, you know, it is about every single day recognizing when you're making this transition from being an employee, because I know for myself, that was my entire mindset. My childhood, what I saw from my parents was that having a job and a secure income and an employer was really the way to go. And any time that they had any sort of side business, it was a money-losing venture every single time.
Right.
So it was always just an expensive hobby that they would call a business. And so for me, I know that I really carried forward that daily routine of an employee into the first couple of years of business, and that really caused me to struggle a lot because I'd never had revenue. I was very much going on the reputation from my career.
Right.
And that allowed me to coast. Like, it was brilliant. When I first said I was starting to consult, I was full. I was booked. I was busy. I had clients coming to me because they had heard I was available.
That's awesome.
It was awesome, except that I never established a process or a system for selecting clients that I wanted, rather than people saying, oh, hey, Debbie, we wanted to hire you 3 years ago. Maybe now you'll come work with us. Right. I got a lot of prospective clients who wanted to actually hire me rather than support my business. But more than anything, it was really what are the actions that I have to take today that will empower me for my business to continue, so that tonight I can sleep well knowing that my rent is paid, knowing that I've got food on the table, and really looking at those. I think, you know, perhaps because both you and I have some background with media sales, and especially with national media sales, it's not such a hard sale as much as it is a consultative sale. And so I feel like because of that experience, I have very little fear or discomfort now with sales. And so when I got into business, I had no discomfort around sales, so I didn't see it as a learning curve. I didn't see it as something that I would have to take on and really build up. You know, and when you're an employee, you don't have to sell anything. I mean, you have to sell your work. You've got to merchandise stuff, but you don't have to hunt for the opportunities, for the clients. You're not out there selling to get your work the next day. Right. You know that you're going to eat. You know you're going to get your salary every 2 weeks, regardless of whether you're sick, regardless of whether your mindset is good or bad, regardless of, you know, if your boss shows up or doesn't. And that sort of mindset, that sort of thinking, I think is really, really critical. And I'm really glad that you touched on having a daily routine to keep in mind, you know, here's what I need to accomplish today, and here's how I want to focus on bringing it forward into the world.
And even the morning routine is sometimes not easy. You know, sometimes you just want to lie in bed. But, you know, after you do it, you feel a lot better and a lot more charged up to take on the day. And like you said, every day is important. Every interaction is important, and you have to sell yourself, whether it's to partners or to customers or to investors, or, you know, there's always someone you got to be selling to. Yes. So you got to be on for sure.
Yes. I think it's definitely better when you can be on all the time. But I myself, I recognize it's impossible for me to be on all the time. And the other thing that I recognize, what for me allowed me to become really comfortable with sales, was the recognition that it's not just the closing of the deal. It's not just the client saying yes that one time. The relationship begins far before they agree to purchase whatever it is that you're selling, and it extends significantly after the contract is completed. And so I had a realization, actually, when I was a media buyer, I spent so much time observing sales reps and what it was that worked for some sales reps to always, get my budget, and other sales reps not to ever, I barely wanted to speak to some sales reps, and other sales reps I would run to pick up the phone when I saw them calling, because I knew they had something good for me or something interesting for me. And I realized that I could play around with my relationships with people or how I responded to people. I could try new things because, yes, while every single day is important and every interaction and every relationship is important and you do have to be selling yourself every day, it's still, every day is a test. Every day is a learning opportunity. And relationships are far, far, far more forgiving than we believe. People really, if you have anyone in your life, anyone in your past that you've ever had a financial relationship with you, I can almost guarantee you that they are hoping that sometime in the future you're going to reach out to them and let them know how you've succeeded. Right. Anyone who's ever had to lay you off, I know that you, for all those people that you had to let them know that their job had evaporated, you want nothing more than to see that they've succeeded in life.
Oh, for sure.
Right. And when they have success, when they realize, oh, wait, that layoff it didn't kill me. It did make me stronger. It showed me some new directions in life. When they can reach out to you and share that value, it's so special.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. Like, so at the same time, like, you can forgive yourself if you screw up. Sometimes people get mad at me because of my approach, and it doesn't fit for everyone, but I've learned to just let it go and say, that's the biggest part that I've learned about sales, is that not everyone needs to be my client.
Yeah.
It's that as an entrepreneur and as, a more aware human being and grateful human being for the opportunities, I also have a responsibility to work with people who are challenging me to grow in the direction that I want. And so I have to look for those clients and identify them, and I have to make some sacrifices to take on those types of clients that are not necessarily the easy clients that just come to me, or not necessarily the clients that want to make me jump through hoops to get their business, but the clients that I say, listen, I'm going to jump through some hoops in the universe to get this client, to grow myself and to move forward. And to learn, like, to recognize, okay, I screwed up in this past thing. I got laid off from this job because of this reason, or I pissed off this person because I did X, Y, and Z. And you just decide if it's okay. Right? Like, go, okay, sometimes some people are going to get pissed off. And that's the biggest thing about transitioning from a job to your own business.
Right.
Is you're going to piss some people off, and for no reason. Like, people are just haters. Sometimes they get jealous, and they will say and do things to put you off of your game, and that's where the mindset becomes so important, because you will face obstacles that are unfair, that are deliberate, that are useless and have no value. But those are the tests in life. It's kind of the game, if you can look at it that way.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Did you have more insights or anything else that you wanted to share?
Just going back to this, shocking day where we got laid off. Like I often think back to that day, and then I sit at home sometimes. I work in my home office. I'm like, oh my gosh, my life is so different right now. But I can honestly say, like, I'm so much happier. And it's not to say that like I mentioned before, I loved the company that I was working for, and I really enjoyed the industry. But it's so interesting for me to be able to sit back and say, I'm happier. Again, without making a
You thought you were happy before.
I thought I was happy, exactly.
Yeah. You thought you were happy. You thought you were secure. You thought you knew what your future was going to look like. But now you've realized that there's another well of happiness that you can fill up.
Yeah.
And that you can go into. I love it.
Exactly. And, a couple last thoughts, like my best friend, when I told her that I was going to start my own business, she's like, oh my gosh, it's about time. And I was like, and she's like, because you have talked about owning your own business since you were a teenager.
Wow.
And she was like, do you remember when we would sit around and we were 13 years old and we would talk about launching a magazine for, Chinese Canadians and Chinese? Do you remember, you said you're going to open a restaurant. Do you remember this? Do you remember that? I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's true. I have talked about this for, a big portion of my life. And I honestly think if that day didn't happen, I would not have had the guts to do it. So
that's the silver lining.
Yeah, that is a silver lining. And again, I talk about the universe a lot, and whether you believe it's the universe, it's God, or whatever power is out there, I do feel like it happened for a reason. And, the silver lining for, I guess, a broader silver lining is, again, there was 100 people that lost their jobs. And I would say that, everyone that I've talked to who has not, actually made the decision to just take some time off for personal reasons, like to go travel or whatever, everyone has found a job and everyone is happy and everyone has no regrets of the time that we had together at that company. In fact, we look back at it with like such fondness, and we know that it will never, there will never be a place like that again. But it's just, like everyone's like, who cares? Like we've had a moment in time where it was amazing. And so I know people who now, when there's this one girl who decided she wanted to live in Europe. So she got herself a job in Germany and she's like living it up in Germany, I know people who have decided like me to completely, do a career change, and it's, working out really well for them. So it's just, as bad as things can seem at, on a given day or a given time, I just really do believe in life that there is always a silver lining, and it resonates through all the 100 people that lost their jobs that day.
Absolutely. Wow.
And I'd like to share my final thought. I'm looking at this quote right now on my vision board that I look at every day. It's a short one, so it says, "Nothing is impossible. The word itself says, I'm possible." And I'm just like, that is such a good quote. It's Audrey Hepburn of all people. And I look at that a lot when I'm thinking like, okay, what do I need to do next? Because it's true, like really anything is possible. And going back to what we were talking earlier, it's just about action. It's not easy.
Take action on the next step. There is something that you can do right now, like regardless of what limitations you are facing, that are putting you not right in front of your dream, there's always something that you can do today that will move you forward towards it. You can reach out to someone, you can start a list, make a phone call. It just starts with that.
Absolutely. So that's all I had to share.
Thank you so much. I want to say one really quick thing, that when you were talking about that day when the announcement came, there's a silver lining also in the way that they did it, which is that can you imagine what your life would have been like for that 30, 60, or 90 days if they had given you as a VP or the entire company warning? It would have been hell. It would have ruined a lot of relationships. And the fact that they did it as many companies do, without any word coming down the ranks at all, and totally shocked everyone. It allowed you to go through every single day with the full commitment and momentum that you had built up. And I think that that's a really, like, it's a very present way to be. Right? Like, rather than, oh my God, the company's shutting down in 60 days. What am I going to do? Obviously, you can't do a very good job. Yeah. You're going to be panicked looking for a new job, rather than just, okay, I've got the severance package, and what I thought was going to be the next year or 10 years of my life or the rest of my career yesterday, now I've got a big, huge space.
Right.
Yeah, and lots to consider. And that's, it's so scary, but it is so valuable to go through. And I'm so, I think I sound like my sister from another mother in you. So thank you so much for sharing your story. Everyone in the audience, if you are listening to this podcast, if you connect with Karen, especially if you're in the Toronto area and you want to reach out to her, you can find her online. Karen, can you let people know your website?
Yeah, so my website is Space I Share. So it's www.space, and then the letter I, and then the word share.com. And if you want to reach out to me, absolutely reach out to me directly, and you can reach me at Karen, Karen, at spaceishare.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And
no problem.
Please, come back again in the future. We'd love to hear more from you.
I would love to.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much, Debbie.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone.
I look forward to seeing your book coming out soon.
Absolutely. It's very exciting. These interviews for everyone in the listening audience are going to be transformed not only into a series of articles, but also into a book. And Karen is one of the lucky few who has been selected to participate and have her story shared within an upcoming Toronto special edition of the Silver Lining Storybook, which I'm very excited
super
about.
Excited.
Yay. Thank you so much. You're very welcome. And thank you, everyone in the listening audience. And come back again.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.